Yes, we are.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so the learning outcomes tonight, I thought the areas that were important to focus on are fall dues, a little bit on budgeting, our chapter tax returns, and then some minimum requirements for chapter financial success. And then I thought it was kind of fun to look at ways to earn cash from home. So I'm sure a lot of you have the same question, what are we doing in the fall? So we are internally at the headquarters working on the same situation. We thought we knew what we could do a couple of weeks ago, but as you know, every week to week now things change drastically. So it's hard to project how to charge the dues in the fall right now. I've reached out to other fraternities and sororities, and same scenario with them, that they're just working on it now. Some of them aren't even deciding until September on how to handle fall dues. So bottom line is, when we have that discussion with the Supreme Council and a decision has been met, we'll certainly communicate that out to everybody. So I can tell you this right now, that we had worked on a budget, and normally our budget process is we finalize it by March, and then it's approved and we move forward with that, but COVID hit. So we had this nice, pretty budget and a balanced budget. But unfortunately, COVID hit, and we had to make concessions and drastically change our budget. So we actually landed on a 50% reduction in our budget. So that means we had to reduce all of our expenses by 50%, as well as our revenue, with expectations of the unknown of, you know, brothers being virtual now and sitting at home. So we're going to work on this and have a resolution shortly. But part of that budget is we did decide to waive the fall programming fee. So normally we would charge all of our groups $700. We have decided to waive that. So that I can communicate with you. So moving on to budgeting 101. So we are trying to work with our chapters on ways that you can save money. So we do, as the headquarters, we do not get involved in your local dues. We never have. But looking at ways that you can save money for your chapter, these are areas that I'm sure you've already perhaps looked at if you have a budget in place or you're working on a budget. These are good points to consider. So you are more than likely not allowed to have social gatherings in the fall. And as such, I'm assuming that you're canceling any events that you may have already booked. So I imagine there aren't local dues to charge to your chapters as a result of this. So there's savings there. And then maybe some of your groups have, you have funds left over from your spring budget that you can transfer down the road to the next academic year. And then we have our social adjustments. So like I said, you may have put aside money for recruitment. So I'm assuming that most recruitment will happen virtually. So money could be saved there, where you're not spending money on t-shirts or swag when you're doing those rush events. And then if you do meet in person, maybe some of those funds could be used for hand sanitizers and face masks. So just switching gears with your budget a little bit. And then I'm assuming you'll have no budget for events for food and drinks, because those are probably going to be postponed, hopefully until the spring, but we just don't know. We just have to make sure that you're safe and healthy, no matter what cost. And then lastly, collection plans. So we ask all of our groups to establish a dues structure internally with your local dues and then your national dues. I'm assuming that that's incorporated into your budget and you have good plans in place. You may experience that with your group, cutting your budget in half and perhaps billing 50% in the fall and then 50% in the spring. At the national office, we're always open to establishing a payment plan with all of our groups. So if you're ever in need of that, please communicate that with me and I'll be happy to work out a plan with your group. So in order to help you with the collection process, this is like a last resort where you'd have to submit a brother into collections. But one thing the headquarters has done is partnered with a company called Parson Bishop. And this past year has been really successful in that chapters have essentially given up with collections on their brothers. So they submit to me the names of the brothers, how much they owe, and then I submit that on to our collection agency, Parson Bishop. And then they've done a really great job this year of collections. And then what happens is whatever dues are collected, that immediately goes against your outstanding balance with us. But again, this should be a last resort, because if you have good controls in place, you shouldn't have to resort to a collection agency. And then also I want to remind you that normally every fall we pull the rosters for each chapters, and those numbers are how we base our invoices. So for instance, if I pull your roster today and you had 50 guys on there, when we do the billing, you'll receive an invoice for 50 guys for your attorney brother fees. If you only have 40, make sure you remove those 10. And if you don't know how to do that, contact Taylor Morrow at our office. She handles all the membership and roster adjustments. If you don't know how to do that, make sure you contact her and she'll be happy to walk you through how to adjust that. Because we want that as accurate as possible. One reason too is we pay out a lot of insurance and we have to submit those member numbers to our insurance company. So we too want it as accurate as possible. So we submit an accurate count to our insurance company. Okay, next area is tax returns. So we are a 501c7 organization and we have been granted tax exempt status through the IRS. So we have a group tax exemption number and all of our chapters fall under our group tax exemption number. So you are in essence a franchise of us. So you have your own tax ID number, you have your own bank accounts. One thing that you have to do in order to stay in good standing with the IRS is file your annual tax return, and that's called the Form 990. So all nonprofits have to file their tax return. So I'm assuming there are different levels of revenue that all of our groups have, but it's important that you understand which form you have to file. So the real easy one is called a 990N, and that's if your gross receipts are under 50,000, which a lot of our groups are. And honestly, it's a simple tax return. It should take you less than 5 minutes to complete, and then you're on your way. And this just notifies the IRS that you're still in good standing, you're still in operations, and then you don't have to worry about it until the next year. And when you're supposed to file is normally 5 months and 15 days after whatever your selected year end is. So for instance, if it's December 31st, you'd have to file by May 15th. Obviously this year it was extended until July 15th. And Craig, any comments on that? I know you prepare a lot of tax returns.
Yeah, the only comment I'm going to make is it's just important to stay in compliance. The last thing you want is the IRS sending letters or trying to contact the chapter for failure to file. These are easy returns. If you have a larger chapter, I'm sure you have alumni available to assist you. If you don't have alumni and you're a larger chapter, reach out to our national office. We'll find alumni for you to assist you. But it's just important to take care of this. The small ones are literally 10 minutes and it's resolved and you don't have to deal with it. But you don't want to be out of compliance.
Yeah, so I was helping a group today because they have lost their tax exempt status. So it's been revoked. So what happens is if you don't file within the 3 consecutive years, the IRS will automatically revoke that number. And essentially now you're a for-profit entity. So for-profit entities, obviously they pay taxes on their revenues. So we don't want that to happen to any of our groups. If you're unsure, if you haven't filed, contact me tomorrow, send me an email, call me, and let's work through this together. And 1, get you filed, and 2, if you have lost your tax exempt status, I can find out right away, and then I can give you resources in order to get that back in good standing. Okay, so minimum requirements for chapter financial success. These are just a few. Obviously, we have a lot more guidance in our finance director's manual, which I'll give you the link on how to find that if you don't have that manual already. But for me, I think the number one thing is having proper internal controls. So what that means is if you have a bank account, you really should have somebody else as a signer on that account. You should always have 2 sets of eyes on everything, and you may even have 3. And I know in our finance director manual, we recommend an advisor periodically reviewing your budget, reviewing your bank statement, and if you have financial statements that you present monthly, have your board review those monthly. And it's good to have always several sets of eyes on the books. It keeps everybody honest and everything in order. So I've had experiences with some of our treasurers where the last treasurer, he just basically bailed and didn't communicate the proper bank account access, didn't transfer over credit cards or debit cards. So that poor finance director is calling me, how do I get access to our chapter's bank account, et cetera, et cetera. So be a good brother and make sure you have measures in place where you're training the next finance director or the next president if you have the president responsible for the finances. We just want to have that good transition for everybody. So the next item is, do you have a good infrastructure for collecting dues? So from the headquarters, you will receive normally your returning brother invoice. That's one invoice. We're not going to charge it this year, but then the other invoice that would come would be the fall programming fees. So we bill returning brother fees once a year. And again, that's when you can put on a payment plan and pay as you. And then the only other invoice we would send out would be the spring programming fees. And then in the event that you bring on any new initiatives, then you receive an invoice for that. So it's pretty basic. In that finance director manual, you see our fees and dues schedule. If you're unsure, contact me. I'll send that schedule out to you if you're not sure of our dues. But it's pretty simple, and just, you know, if you pay attention to your emails, you'll receive statements every month as well, which breaks down every single thing we charge. So I also, now with COVID, there's a lot of brothers sitting at home and they're questioning why belong to a fraternity. Well, I haven't belonged to a fraternity, but just working for ZBT, I mean, there's so many other reasons that go above and beyond social gathering. And
Shelley?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
With those invoices, they go to chapter officers, but do they also come to advisors as well?
Yeah, so what I do in our database, whoever is named the advisor, the president, and the finance director. So we use QuickBooks, so we just automatically put those email addresses into each chapter. So that is the email addresses, and that's who we communicate to then. So as long as the database is up to date with the most recent president or finance director, then that person should always be receiving invoices and statements monthly. And then if you're with Omega-Phi and we know that you're on bulk billing, we also send it directly to Omega-Phi as well.
Great, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. So anyways, I was having that conversation with David Rind, who's our director of growth and expansion. You know, how do I communicate to the brothers? Because they're like, well, we're not meeting right now. You know, why should I belong to the fraternity, etc. I am sure as brothers, you know that it goes far beyond just having parties and meeting girls. So in this world we're in, it's all virtual now. This is a great time to communicate virtually with all of your brothers, hold events, hold games. I know a lot of brothers are doing all kinds of things as brothers do.
Shelley, let me, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to point out, I know we have a lot of undergrads on the call. I'm a CPA. I have my own accounting firm. I have about 30 people working for me. And I have other chapter brothers that are employers as well. When I get resumes and I look to hire people, the first place I look is the bottom of the resume. First, I want to see if you're Greek. Second, I want to see if you're ZBT. And third, I want to see what chapter offices you held. That means, to me as an employer, you went above and beyond just showing up and getting A's. Now, if you were president, if you were a chapter leader, IFC, whatever it was, the fact that you went Greek and the fact that you took that extra initiative and put your heart and soul into your fraternity or sorority means something to an employer. So I will tell you, one of the benefits of fraternity, who I've been out of school 40 years, is connections and future connections and growth. I have been in client meetings and they've come to my office and they see ZBT on the wall, and that hour meeting that I would talk about accounting and tax is now talking about our chapter times. And we were different times. The first time I met Brother Seth, we hadn't met ever, and we sat in a room together and we grew up in the same town, and it's like we have our own chapter now. And when I come down to Florida after COVID, I'm hanging out with Seth. So I strongly recommend brotherhood is not just what you find today, it's what's going to be with you for the rest of your life.
Thank you, Craig. So I know I had mentioned that we had to drastically reduce our headquarter budget. So that also meant we had to furlough half of our staff. So we are a small staff at the moment, but by all means, if you have anything you need help with, please reach out to us. I know all of us would drop everything in a heartbeat to help you out in any way possible. So we have some very talented staff that can help you in different ways of communications, or me from the finance side with collections, or helping you with your budget. So feel free to reach out to us at any time. So another area I want to talk about is for your minimum requirements for financial successes. Pay your invoices on time or work out a payment plan with us. This will help you avoid any late fees and any other further escalation on your chapter's account. And then lastly, have a workable budget with your chapter and something that you all agree on. And again, communication is key. So make sure you're having your meetings and communicating your budget, and, you know, let them know if you're over budget or you're under budget. Do you have a savings account? How's that going, etc. So key here is just communicate on the finances.
Shelly, can I ask a question?
Sure.
When are chapters able to start making a payment plan with Net?
Anytime. So like I said at the beginning, I'm not sure how we're billing for the fall. I don't even know what that amount looks like right now, unfortunately. The hope is that after our Supreme Council meeting, after convention, we'll have a better idea. But again, it's early. It's still only July. A lot of things can change with schools, as we're seeing in August, in September. But like I said, as soon as I know, I'll communicate that out to everybody. But at any time you want to create a payment plan with me, call me, email me, and we'll work out something.
Perfect. Yeah, I was told we had to wait for the fall semester to start, or the fall.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, how payment plans normally work is I submit an invoice to the group, and let's say it's a $10,000 invoice. Obviously, you're not in a position to pay $10,000. So that's when you get that invoice. Then normally they would contact me, hey, I want to go on a payment plan. And a lot of times too, what I'll do is with that returning brother invoice, I'll include the payment plan form. Excuse me. And we also provide an ACH program where, let's say you set up like $1,000 a month I want to pay, and you fill out the ACH form. So that allows me, great, $1,000 will come out of your bank account monthly, so you never have to worry about, you know, logging in, making that payment, writing us a check, etc. It's just really easy. I'll take care of it for you. So your only part is that make sure the money's in the account, because what will happen, obviously, you'll get an NSF for non-sufficient funds, and we'll end up charging you a $50 fee for that. So, but other than that, it's been really successful with our groups, because it allows them not to worry about having to, oh my God, make that deadline, make that payment.
But Shelley, you don't have a problem accepting a prepayment if some chapters have extra money now and they want to get a head start on a payment plan?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I'm always open to that. If you want to call me tomorrow and we'll work out a payment plan, I'll drop what I'm doing and help you out with that. Okay, so this is kind of like a fun area I was looking at on how to earn cash from home. Most of us are going to be at home for a while, I believe. So one fun area is teach an online course. So I'm confident we have a lot of intelligent people on this call. Maybe you can teach an online course like for English or tutor for math or who knows what, but there are sites like Skillshare and Teachable where you can create an online course and start earning money today. Become a tutor. I know I would love to learn how to play the piano, so if there's any talented piano players out there, you can tutor people for that, or playing the guitar. And again, there's a link there called Schooly and Wyant, and again, you can log in there and create an account and start earning money. Another thing that a lot of people are doing are virtual fitness classes. So some people make up to $75 an hour. So let's say you're really good at golf and you have a great technique. Pass along those talents to other people and advertise, and have some online classes and teaching whatever, fitness. You're a really good swimmer, you're on the swim team in the college. Why not create a Google Hangout or a Zoom account and charge people where you can teach them your swimming stroke and techniques. So for examples, sell your stuff. Maybe some of you are doing that already. You have a lot of stuff laying around the house. I guess I found out Americans have a shocking 43 billion worth of unused tech items at home. So there's a site called Declutter. It's an easy platform to use, and they also have contactless shipping, so it's safe and easy to sell to people. Market your skills. There's a link there for Upwork. So categories that you could sell your skills are writing, design, legal, translation, admin, to name a few. So those are just some ideas on how to make money from home for anybody. So this is almost the end here. So I provided a bunch of links here. So the very first one is for the 990 postcard. You can use that link, and that's where you go to file your 990 if you haven't done so. But again, I just remind you that if you haven't done it, call me tomorrow and let's get on this. The second link is called file990.org. They're actually a company that we partnered with, and they'll actually file your 990 for you. So you just need to provide some information to them, and for a fee, they'll do that 990 return. And they're rather inexpensive too, provided you have the financial information. The next link is a blog on omegafy.com. So as you know, we partner with Omegafy. They have some great resources on there. They have templates if you don't have a budget in place, payment plans. So that's another great place you could go to. Our website, zbt.org. So we have a ton of information. You probably attended other ZBT from home events, but we have a lot of information, especially as it relates to the coronavirus. Bill Highway, that's just another company that provides a billing service similar to Omegafy. Again, that site I went to, they had a lot of resources there. The next one is James Our Favor, jrco.com. That's our insurance provider. So again, if you have a house and you're not sure how to handle transitioning and opening up when you do open up in the fall, they have a ton of resources on their website to help you navigate through all of that. And then lastly is every single one of the ZBT brothers should have your My ZBT access, which essentially is the database. On there is a resource center. So under that resource center, we have every single manual for every position, and the advisor manual exists on there as well. So I just provided the link for the finance director manual, but that's where you can find all the resources that ZBT offers. So that's pretty much what I have. Are there any questions right now?
Shelley, can I just want to give us some additional information if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Hey,
All
Alex,
right.
Katz.
So I want our undergrad brothers to know that ZBT National Organization is the organization that's there to assist you to the fullest extent we can. There's another arm of the fraternity called the ZBT Foundation, which I served on for a while. The ZBT Foundation gives out scholarships for undergrads and is meant to help undergrad students in difficult times to make sure all ZBTs get through college. So as a leader in your chapter, please share the information about the foundation with your chapter. I believe the Scholarships this year were close to $100,000 given out to undergrads. I believe the maximum scholarship was 10 grand, and I'm sure it was very helpful to the students that needed it. Seth and I have been active raising funds for the foundation, and it's there to help us, our brothers, during the time of need, and that's where we are now. I know students facing a financial difficult time. I know parents have lost their jobs. So I would encourage, as leaders of the chapter, to share that information. And if you need more details, you can reach out to the national office or foundation. There's going to be a website, ZBT Foundation. Check into it. It will be very helpful to your chapter.
Thanks, Craig. I have a question here about the returning brother fees, whether they've been set already. So, like I said, we had to drastically cut our budget, so we are not increasing dues at all. So they remain the same as last year. And in fact, if anyone missed it, we are not charging the $700 fall programming fee in the fall. So we're throwing some ideas around on how to do billing in the fall. Again, once we have something set in place, we'll definitely communicate that out to everybody as quickly as we can.
Charlie, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, thank you. My chapter president communicated to me that this year ZBT National was allowing undergrads to go inactive. I know that that's never been something that's done in the past, so I wanted to get some clarification from you. I love the chapter president. He's great, but sometimes, you know, information gets a little bit, you know, lost in translation. Is that something that is happening? And if so, how will that impact our budgets, and how do we plan for, you know, I guess since it's never been done before, I'm not sure how to plan a budget around that idea.
Yeah, so we, to my knowledge, and maybe Anthony can chime in on this too, but we do not have such a thing as an inactive status. You can't be an inactive brother. Either you're active or you're not. The status we have are, let's say you're initiated and within 30 days you can disaffiliate. So we have that status. You can be expelled. And then when you graduate, you're alumni. So those are the statuses we have. We did create a section, I don't want to say a status, but for instance, like those new initiates from the spring. So let's say we initiated some brothers in March, they got sent packing. So they, you know, right off the bat had zero fraternity experience. So what we did for those new initiates, we created a deferred status, like to fall cult for COVID. So our hope with that is if they are able to go on campus on the fall, that they have a good fraternity experience and they still want to be a part of ZBT. But essentially we are deferring those till the fall. Do you want to comment on that, Anthony?
Yeah, just to talk a little bit more on the statuses. I know during this time, especially in COVID, we don't know if all of our brothers are going to return. If there's a possibility that a brother is not going to be able to even come back to your particular institution or needs to transfer to another one, please talk to your staff liaison or any staff member and we can help you out. We have a status that is like an early alumni, which is alumni left on good standing. So let's say that they no longer can afford, or they have to stay at home and help their family, whatever the case is, and they're not returning back to school. That's a different discussion where we can alumni somebody. That's not saying that that's an active policy. That's if they're not returning back to school, even if they're like in the sense of not even doing online classes. And so we don't want brothers to feel as if they're going to be expelled because of something going on in their lives and they cannot be at school. So that's one. And then the other side of it, especially when it comes to what is going on with the dues, and just really echoing what Shelly said, just reach out to the office. We're about to send out some graphics that we made showing where your money goes and showing how much it gets spent on insurance. And the reason why we have that insurance is for you guys to have a safer college experience and a fraternal experience especially. And so if you guys do have any questions after those go out, I know Shelly is more than happy to answer them because we want to just be transparent with you guys as much as possible.
With that special alumni status, let's say we have a brother who can't come during the fall due to COVID, but they may be able to come during the spring. Can we give them that status?
So,
status?
Yes. If they are unenrolling from school, they have to, in this case, because of COVID, we might ask if they have a letter of resignation from the school or what their contents are. Then they can go alumni on good standing if they are already paid in full with the chapter in the international office. And then let's say that they're coming back in spring. There's a reinstatement process in which we ask certain information, and our disciplinary board that comes from our Supreme Council will get together and either reinstate that brother or keep them at their current status. So we would, particularly in this case, ask for like information that they did have to unenroll from the school because we don't want this to become an inactive status. But yes, that is a possibility.
So if they're taking online classes, though, that does not.
Yeah, they're still enrolled with the institution.
Okay.
Somebody had a question regarding recruitment in the fall. So Anthony is the perfect person to reach out to. So when you have questions along the lines of recruitment, reach out to him or David Rind.
I have a quick question, if I may. I'm looking at the link Seth posted here in the chat about having an investment, like a chapter-wide investment. It's something that I've been thinking about for my chapter, to alleviate the financial burden on my brothers. How would we, as a chapter, implement this, or how could we, considering that obviously we're a nonprofit organization?
So that's a great question, Tomas. I brought it up in the context separate from necessarily looking to help out a brother in need. I think the way we typically would do something like that would be to contact one of us, either a Supreme Counselors or someone on staff, and let us know about the specific situation. We would then figure out what kind of scholarship opportunities might be available, like Craig mentioned, through the foundation. So that would be something completely separate. I only brought this up in the context of ideas and activities. I was actually about to click something else. You could tell I'm an accounting professor to try to help guys pick up, more in terms of financial literacy. And I even tell my own students to read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all of those other books. A Random Walk Down Wall Street, which is probably the most read book by MBA students. So why not undergraduate brothers? So one of the things that you can do separate and apart from helping a brother is start an investment club where you and your chapter brothers would throw $20 a month or $50, whatever makes sense. And then you get together and figure out, hey, we should be investing in Amazon or Apple. And you're basically just starting a group, and the website is actually the world's largest consortium of investment clubs, and you normally would work through them, and they give you a whole bunch of resources. So it's just more like just a fun activity to learn about investing, and then you'd have meetings and you'd say, okay, I think we should invest in this, I think we should invest in that. You guys have probably read about the dangers of this. Is risky, right? Investing is very risky. It's not unlike going to a casino. You can lose your money very, very quickly. A lot of young brothers are getting involved in cryptocurrency and things that I know very little about. And you all probably heard, a tragic story of a poor guy who committed suicide because of trading on Robinhood, and he didn't understand exactly what he was doing. So there's a lot of, perils and pitfalls when it comes to investing. So I'm all about financial literacy. That was the real reason that I put that in there. But regarding helping brothers, absolutely, let us know about it, and we can direct you to the best way to do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I hope this was helpful to all of the groups. And you have my email address if you're, sorry, I have dogs, as you can probably tell. If you're interested in, you think that we should hold another call like this and maybe dive into deeper in other areas, please feel free to email me and let me know your thoughts.
Would myself and Christian also in this chat be able to talk with you after briefly about our tax exempt status?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we can stay on and talk about that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Shelley, what do you want to put a plug out there for the virtual convention?
Sure, or unless you want to.
You beat me to it, Craig. You beat me to it. I was typing a message right now.
Okay, let Anthony do it. Anthony's been working fast and furious on that. No? Okay.
I mean, yeah, convention registration is ending tomorrow. I know a couple brothers in here, I already messaged you saying we only have one member, we need two. So make sure you guys are registering. If you as the president cannot make it, make sure that you have a voting delegate and use that voting delegate form. If you need more information, I just muted myself on accident. If you guys need more information about it, I'm going to drop my email inside of the chat right now. Just shoot me a message. But it's going to be really, really cool. We've been working on it for a long time. It's going to be production. It's going to be lights. It's going to be glam. It's going to be amazing. So even if you guys have two people, if you want more going, that is totally fine. It is completely free. And it starts on Sunday, July 26th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and we hope to see you there.
We'll have the award ceremony, which is the big deal, right? All right, so tomorrow I'll send out this slide deck and then you'll have the link to all the resources I mentioned. I hope it was helpful in some way. And again, reach out to me if you think we should hold another one like this and maybe suggested topics you'd be interested in. And we have a lot of talented ZBT alumni out there that I'm sure would be glad to help as well. So have a good night and thank you for joining.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, Chloe. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night, guys.
Bye, Shelley.
Hey. How's it going?
I'm good. If you do